looking at what has been happening in KwaZulu Natal, this visit by the National Working Committee, was it a rescue mission in your view?
Thank you very much for having me. First of all, I must say that the visit is necessary, not just because this is KwaZulu-Natal, which is the biggest province of the ANC, but because the ANC has not been doing well lately, and also in preparation for the 2024 general election. So the party needs to do a self-introspection and check what has gone wrong and where the party has done well so it can consolidate its power. And the reality is that in the case of KwaZulu-Natal, we've seen the IFP making inroads and growing, in fact, in stature, which therefore means that this leaves the ANC unsettled. So it's very important, therefore, for the leadership of the ANC to take these signs seriously so that they correct whatever mistake that might be there in time before the 2024 general election.
Just on how unsettled, Prof, should they be looking at what has been happening, as you say, with the IFP in some of the, the by-elections?
The ANC is in fact responsible for its own decline. This has very likely or nothing to do with the opposition political parties. Most of the reasons why the ANC has not been performing well is not because the opposition parties are getting stronger, but it's because of the mistakes that have been made by the party itself. One is a lack of a service delivery in certain areas, which then allows opposition parties to capitalize on that. One of the issues, for instance, in the case of KwaZulu-Natal, is a very simple issue which has been there for quite some time, the provision of water, and then also this theft of cars which cross border to Mozambique. Those are some of the issues the party is well aware of. And then, of course, recently we've seen natural disasters like what happened last year with the floods. There's not been any speedy reaction from the government side, and in this case from the governing party in the province, that is the ANC. And people are disgruntled and they're not happy about that. Let alone the fact that in 2021 already, we saw that people were not happy about a number of issues. But still, they said that they still love the ANC, but the ANC is disappointing them. And the only thing they could do was not to vote. Now, if the ANC does not correct that mistake, then it means that people might end up saying that we gave the ANC enough time to regroup, and then if they failed, then we're giving other political parties a chance. So that is the context within which I think the NWC of the ANC saw it necessary to descend in KwaZulu-Natal and then try to talk to their people and then say, this is what we are doing, these are the challenges, and these are the plans we have in place. Whether they will succeed or not, that is another question for another day. But in principle, what they are doing is what they should have done long time ago already.
And I'd like us to stay with that question of whether or not they succeed, because the president ending off there is saying that I'd like to come back to, eThekwini to do door-to-door with you, to be on the ground in order to be able to assist, much to a resounding applause when he says that. In your view, can it help on the ground looking ahead to next year?
You know what, my sister, if you want me to tell you the truth, I will tell you that the ANC does not need door-to-door. The ANC is known nationally, and the ANC is known in KwaZulu-Natal. All that people need is just service delivery. That's all. That's all you need. You don't need to waste money doing door-to-door, employing so many volunteers. You don't need all of that. All you need is just to use the power that you already have, which has been given to you by the very same people who are now raising concerns. Just listen to what their issues are and then attend to them. Like the examples I've just given you right now. You have water around KZN, which is the biggest dam, not just in KwaZulu-Natal, but in the country. But then people around the area, including my area, by the way, in Gwavuma, who are not having access to such water. So what will door-to-door help in that regard? It's not going to help you. And then the fact that people are losing their cars, to the extent that some are losing their lives in places like KwaMhlabelingana, what will door-to-door help in that regard? People don't need door-to-door. They need real action on the ground, and they want to see the results. The moment you do that, we will not even need this door-to-door. People are going to come back and vote for 2024.
And I suppose, of course, looking at this issue of, the feeding scheme crisis, also further compounding issues there. The president saying that he wants to put the right people in the right positions. They want to professionalize, the public service. And this is not a new thing. We've been hearing it being talked about. So does it look like, though, that is moving at a speed at which it's supposed to be, given what we are seeing, coming out from the eThekwini municipalities and the intervention that has been put there to try and assist that municipality and some of the other municipalities that are in distress in the province?
You know what, my sister, I was trying to avoid this issue of the feeding scheme because it's an insult to the people of KwaZulu-Natal. And in fact, it's an insult to the government itself, because I don't understand how we got into this. Given the fact that the current MEC, Honorable Mbali Fraser, was trying to address a situation, one would have expected that before you address the situation, you first try to understand what the causal factors are of the previous failures. And then the moment you implement your changes, you are implementing changes that are going to be effective, not to make the situation even worse. Because at the moment, the situation has gotten out of hand. Unfortunately, the Eastern Cape has also joined the fray. So it means the problem is no longer a KwaZulu-Natal problem, but it's now becoming KwaZulu-Natal and the Eastern Cape. So if you address the problem in KwaZulu-Natal, you'll also have to address the same problem in the Eastern Cape. But staying to your question, eThekwini is the biggest region of the ANC. It remains the biggest region of the ANC until, of course, we are given fresh numbers, which means, therefore, that if the ANC is serious about regaining KwaZulu-Natal, retaining KwaZulu-Natal in the 2024 general election, one of the areas they need to win will be eThekwini. And the fallout between the ANC and the APC means that there is a lot of work that needs to happen. But the survival of Mngomezulu counter means that there is hope that the ANC might still retain eThekwini and therefore might still retain KwaZulu-Natal. But that is not a given. It means a lot of work needs to happen. And one of the things that need to be done, for instance, to go to the townships and try to understand what the concerns are, including, of course, the issue that people refer to, which happened during looting, where it became clear that there are some communities that are well armed in areas like Phoenix. Then ask yourself, where do they get the arms from? And there is no one who seems to be interested in that. And yet people died there. And there are still answers that people are waiting for, and those answers are not forthcoming. So that is why earlier I was saying you don't need to do on that one. You just need to act and act decisively, and then give people the feedback they expect, and then we have won the day.
Prof, there's another issue, of course, that is gripping the country, not just KwaZulu-Natal. That's the issue of rolling blackouts. The president, kind of in jest, saying that the Minister of Electricity dreams about electricity, eats electricity, everything about him is electricity, and he's looking at this problem in a much more introspective manner. But how much more of an introspective manner is he looking at it, given the fact that the issues of his powers is still up in the air?
You know, that one is a disaster, and it was meant to be a disaster in the first place. We have tried our level best to advise government on this matter. We indicated on several occasions that the country does not need a minister of electricity. I still repeat that. The country does not need a minister of electricity. You have Pravin Gordhan, who is a minister of state-owned enterprises. You have also Gwede Mantashe, who is the Minister of Energy. Now, the question is, what will the Minister of Electricity do? Whether he's dreaming electricity, is walking electricity, does not arise. The reality is that if you don't know why we have load shedding, I suggested that the government is supposed to commission a 3-month study to establish what the problem is, and then give the report and the recommendations to the engineers who are going to implement it. No minister is going to solve this problem. It's even worse with the current minister, that is Minister Mokhoba, because a few months down the line, the president is still trying to figure out what his job description will be. You and I know for sure that the moment you are employed, the job description is already ready for you, and then you are given that job description, and then you implement it. It's on the basis of your performance that you then earn a salary. Now, if you ask me the question, what is the job description of our minister? I don't know. And I doubt if you were to ask the same question to the president, he would know. Just the other day, I heard the minister saying that the president has called him, has called Pravin Gordhan, has called Gwede Mantashe under one roof, to use his own words, so that they can make a determination as to what his job description will be. The NEC just recently had a 4-day meeting, at the end of which we expected that we would know eventually what the job description of the minister is. We're still in the dark. We don't know what he's doing. Yeah. But all we know is that he's getting a salary. What for? You and I still have to get an answer to that. So it doesn't matter whether it dreams electricity. The reality is that we are still on load shedding as we speak. We are on load shedding, and it's going to continue.
Prof, we're out of time, so in about 20 seconds, what are your thoughts on what is going on around this particular U.S. issue where we're being accused of selling arms, supplying arms to Russia? At the same time, the president talking about how, he wasn't happy with what the ambassador did. And then we get that briefing from the special envoys who are talking about how they had been the ones that made the U.S., alerted them to this. So there's quite a lot going on there. In about 20 seconds, what do you make of what has been going on?
No, that was political negligence by the American ambassador. Because if you have an issue like this, which is a very sensitive issue, then the least you can do is just to talk to Minister Pando and then express your concern, give the information that you have, and then let government handle the issue. He didn't do that. So that was a political mistake, a political blunder, in fact, to be exact. And we didn't need that. South Africa is being punished for taking a neutral position when the issue of Russia-Ukraine was presented at the UN General Assembly. All that we are hearing now are just make-up stories to try and, in fact, buttress the assertion that South Africa is siding with Russia. But facts point to the contrary.
All right, Prof, always a pleasure. Thank you so much for your time this afternoon. That's political analyst, Professor Bheki Mngomezulu.